This is my son, who, when he first became famous, said that I was dead.
I can relate. I used to say my dad was dead.
Right? And then it went from I'm dead to I smoke.
Mad. Did you smoke?
What am I gonna smoke for?
Right now, at this very moment, while 21 Savage is living in a mansion in Atlanta, counting millions, performing sold-out shows, and pulling up in the most expensive cars money can buy, his biological father is still living in the hood, in London, working a regular government job. And that man has gone on multiple platforms, broken down in tears, and told the world that his own son, one of the biggest rappers alive, has never once picked up the phone to check on him. Not a call, not a text, not a dollar, nothing. But here's what makes this story even wilder. 21 Savage built his whole reputation off being a street dude from Atlanta, a guy who came from nothing, a guy with a daddy who smoked crack and abandoned him. That's the story he told the world. The problem? His dad is very much alive, very much reachable, and according to Kevin Emmons himself, none of that story is true. The truth behind what really went down between 21 Savage and his father is deeper, messier, and way more complicated than anything he's ever rapped about. And today, we're breaking all of it down. Yo, what's good, fam? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we don't sugarcoat nothing. We bring you the real stories, the full picture, the stuff the blogs gloss over. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most overlooked family dramas in hip-hop, 21 Savage and the father he left behind in the UK. Strap in, because this one gets real. Before we get into all of this, let me set the scene for y'all, because some of you might not know the full backstory, and that context matters. 21 Savage, real name Shaya bin Abraham Joseph, is one of the most successful rappers of his generation. 4 consecutive #1 albums, Grammy wins, a net worth estimated north of $16 million. He's toured with Drake on one of the biggest tours in recent memory. He's practically the face of Atlanta trap music. But here's the thing. 21 Savage was not born in Atlanta. He was not even born in America. Shaya bin Abraham Joseph was born on October 22, 1992, at Newham University Hospital in the Plaistow area of London, England. His mother, Heather Carmelia Joseph, is a British national with roots from the Caribbean island of Dominica. His father, Kevin Cornelius Emmons, is also a British national with family ties to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So from day one, this kid has Caribbean blood running through his veins, born and raised in the heart of East London. Now hold up. Before y'all start thinking this is just another celebrity is actually British story, because we all had our laughs in 2019 when ICE arrested him on Super Bowl Sunday and exposed his whole background. This story goes way deeper than an accent. This is about a father who claims he was abandoned by his own son, a father who says he was lied on publicly to make a rap narrative sound cooler, a father who is now sitting in London still struggling while his son is one of the wealthiest rappers alive. And that, fam, is where it gets real spicy. So let's go back to the beginning. London, the early 1990s. Kevin Emmons and Heather Joseph are together, and in 1992, they welcome their son, Shaya, into the world. Now, Kevin is listed on the birth certificate as a sales assistant at the time. Not a drug dealer, not a crack addict, not a street guy, a working man. The family is living in East London, which, let's be clear, is not exactly the most lavish neighborhood in the world. East London has its own struggles, its own poverty, its own street element, but they were a family, a unit. Then the relationship between Kevin and Heather falls apart. The couple separates, and here's where the paths completely diverge. When Shaya is around 7 years old, some sources say 7, ICE originally said 12, but most accounts point to 7. His mother makes a major decision. She packs up, leaves the UK, and moves herself and her son to Atlanta, Georgia. Kevin stays behind in London with his twin daughters, Kira and Jada Davis. Think about that for a second. A 7-year-old kid gets uprooted from the only country he's ever known. He leaves his father, his grandmother's house, his whole world, and lands in Atlanta, Georgia, a place that couldn't be more different from London if you tried. Different weather, different food, different slang, different everything. And when little Shaya gets on that school bus for the first time in Atlanta, he opens his mouth, and out comes a British accent. A full-on London accent, in the middle of East Atlanta. You already know what happened next. In his own words, on Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharp, 21 Savage described exactly what went down. I got in a fight on the first day of school. On God. They used to tease me. I get on the bus or whatever. They start talking to me. So they're making fun of me on the way to school. So we get on the bus to go home. They making fun of me on the way home. So we get off the bus. One of the older dudes, his brother was the main one. So the older brother said something basically like, fight him. So we get off the bus and I beat him up. And his mama, she came outside, grabbed him by the ear and pulled him straight into the house. But what's crazy is that fight, as wild as it sounds, was actually a turning point. Because in the hood, if you can handle yourself, people respect you. Overnight, Shia went from being the weird British kid to being someone who didn't take mess from nobody. The hood accepted him, but to truly be accepted, he had to erase every trace of where he came from. The accent, the mannerisms, everything. He told the New York Times, I had an accent, because my first day of school they was making fun of me, so I beat somebody up, and they was calling me Taekwondo Kid. My mama whooped me. She made me stay in the house. So I know I had an accent, but I've been here 20 years, I don't know what happened to it. That right there tells you everything you need to know about what he felt about his British identity in those early years. He didn't just lose the accent, he buried it. He had to. In the hood of East Atlanta, being from London wasn't cool, it was a target. So he became somebody else. He became Atlanta. He became the streets, and the streets had a lot to teach him. Now here's where it gets real. Because while 21 Savage was assimilating into Atlanta life, he wasn't assimilating into something safe and stable. He was absorbing the worst of what the streets had to offer. His mother eventually remarried and had more children. The family was still in the hood, just a different hood now, East Atlanta, Zone 6, the same area that produced some of the realest street music in hip-hop history, and young Shea was right in the middle of it. By middle school, things were already going sideways. He told people he stopped talking to his father in 6th grade. He was getting into trouble, getting expelled from schools across the Atlanta area. It got so bad that he was eventually banned from every single school in DeKalb County for gun possession in 7th grade. Banned from the entire school district, not suspended, banned. The whole county said no. He ended up in a juvenile detention center and completed 8th grade through an alternative program. After that, the streets had him fully. He got involved with a gang affiliated with the Bloods, started selling weed, and was fully embedded in the life that he would later rap about. And then on his 21st birthday, October 22nd, 2013, the worst thing imaginable happened. 21 Savage and a group of friends were caught in a drive-by shooting. His best friend Johnny was killed, and 21 Savage himself was shot 6 times. 6 times. Head, neck, body. He survived. Barely. And when he came out on the other side of that, he was a different person entirely. Something in him shifted. He started taking music seriously, started pouring his pain into records. In 2015, he dropped the Slaughter tape, then Slaughterhouse in 2016. The world started paying attention. By 2016 and 2017, he was featured on Post Malone's Rockstar, one of the biggest songs of the year. Then came Issa album, then Without Warning with Offset and Metro Boomin. Then I Am Greater Than I Was, hit after hit. The kid from East London who hid his accent was now the face of Atlanta trap music. But while 21 Savage was rising, his father was thousands of miles away. Still in London, still struggling, watching his son become a superstar, and hearing things about himself that he says simply are not true. Alright, now we get to the part that has the internet divided. Because when 21 Savage started telling his origin story to the world, in interviews, on songs, in the narratives he built around himself, his father was painted in a very specific light. In multiple interviews, 21 Savage talked about his dad like he was absent, like he was a deadbeat, like he abandoned him and left him for dead. He implied on record that his father had substance abuse issues, that his dad smoked crack. He told Math Hoffa that his father had substance abuse problems after abandoning him. He talked on Breakfast Club about how his father stopped sending him money, and that was the end of their relationship. Here's exactly what he said on The Breakfast Club in 2018. He claimed that he asked his father, Kevin Cornelius Emmons, to send him $100 a month to pay for a cell phone. According to 21, his father sent the first $100, then just stopped. Full stop. No more money, no more contact, and because he stopped getting that money, 21 said he started selling weed just to afford a phone. He said he hadn't spoken to his father since 6th grade and that he used to be hurt over it but had moved on. Now on the surface, that's a sad story. A dad who can't even be bothered to send $100 a month to stay connected with his kid. You can understand why fans took 21's side. You can understand why nobody really dug deeper. But then Kevin Emmons started talking. On the UK's RTM podcast show, hosted by Young Spray, Kevin Emmons sat down and gave his version of events. And y'all, his version is completely different. He didn't just mildly disagree with his son, he straight up said he's lying. Let me break down what Kevin said. According to Kevin Emmons, the phone situation didn't go down the way 21 described it at all. Kevin said he agreed to pay for the phone, but the agreement was specifically so he could call his son directly without having to go through Heather, 21's mother, who he obviously had issues with after the separation. Kevin also said he agreed to pay for the international calling credit so that the calls wouldn't cost his son anything. He said, and this is important, that he had that conversation with his son multiple times. He set up the phone, he set up the credit, he did what he said he was gonna do. So why did it fall apart? Kevin's explanation is that he and Shea had an agreement that the boy would fly back to the UK every 6 months. Kevin said he was working and saving specifically to eventually travel to America to see his son. But the plan was that Shea would come to the UK first, regularly, to maintain that father-son connection. According to Kevin, his son came back to London exactly one time, in 2005, one trip, and that was for a family funeral. After that, nothing. The boy never came back, never called, never reached out, and Kevin says because his son wasn't holding up his end of the deal, he didn't see the point in continuing to send money while the relationship was going nowhere. Now here's where it gets emotional, Kevin said in that RTM interview, and sources described that he broke down while saying this, that he never abandoned his son. He said he never stopped caring. He said the way the story is being told publicly is destroying him. Because here's a man sitting in London watching his son, who is now a global rap superstar with millions of dollars, tell the world that his dad was a drug addict who abandoned him. That is a heavy thing to carry. And the drug addict narrative, Kevin reportedly pushed back hard on that. The man has a job. He works for Westminster City Council in London. He is a government worker. He is not some crackhead living under a bridge. He is a regular working man who fell out with his son over a complicated family breakdown, and now he's being painted as a monster to make a rap story more compelling. Now this is where we got to address something real, fam. Because hip-hop has always had a complicated relationship with truth-telling. And 21 Savage is not the first rapper, and definitely won't be the last, to stretch his backstory to fit the image he was trying to build. Think about where 21 Savage was trying to land in the music industry. He was trying to break into Atlanta's rap scene, a scene built on authenticity, on street credibility, on coming from nothing. He wasn't just competing with other rappers. He was competing with the entire mythology of the Atlanta streets, the Gucci Manes, the Young Jeezys, the culture, and on top of that, he had a secret. He wasn't from Atlanta. He wasn't even from America. He was a British kid with a London accent who got teased on his first day of school. So what does a person do when their real story doesn't match the image they need to survive? In the streets and in the music industry, they build a narrative that does. Now, we're not here to say 21 Savage is a fraud. Because listen, regardless of where he was born, those Atlanta streets were real. The gang life was real. Getting shot 6 times on your birthday is real. Losing your best friend to gun violence is real. His pain is real. His trauma is real. The hood he lived in was real. But some of the specific details he used to explain how he got to that point, specifically the way he talked about his father, that's where it gets murky. Because there's a difference between abandonment and estrangement. There's a difference between a dad who left you and a dad who got cut off by circumstances and a complicated family separation. And when you're building a rap persona, my dad worked for the city council in London, and we had a miscommunication about a cell phone plan. Doesn't hit the same as, my daddy left me, and I had to survive these streets alone. One of those is a rap verse, the other one is just life. But here's the thing about elevating your story to sell records. The real person you're talking about has to live with what you said. Kevin Emmons didn't choose to be a character in 21 Savage's narrative, and now this man is out here on podcasts, crying, defending his name because his son called him a crackhead to the whole world. And that brings us to the saddest part of this whole story, because while we talk about 21 Savage's mansion and his millions and his Grammy plaques, Kevin Emmons is still in London, still working for Westminster City Council, still living in the UK, and by all accounts, he is not living large. He's not on the Forbes list. He's not flying private. He is a regular man with a regular life. And that life has been complicated by the public nature of his son's fame and the public nature of the story his son told. He's not famous. He didn't choose the spotlight, but the spotlight found him anyway, in the worst way possible. Reports indicate that Kevin did try to reach out, through interviews, through the podcast, through making his side of the story public, not necessarily to embarrass his son, but to defend his own name. He wanted people to know that he is not the monster the rap narrative made him out to be. He's a man, a father, a man who says he tried. And what's really heartbreaking about this situation Even after all of this, after the RTM podcast, after the public back and forth, 21 Savage has not publicly reached out to his dad, has not addressed it in a meaningful way, has not flown his father out, has not changed his father's situation. And people around Kevin have noted that he's still living a very modest life, still in the hood, so to speak, while his son could change that with one phone call. Now look, we don't know everything about what goes on in that family behind closed doors. We don't know if there were conversations that didn't make the internet. We don't know if money was sent privately. What we do know is what's been said publicly. And publicly, the picture is not a good one. And here's what makes this land different from your average celebrity family drama. 21 Savage has been vocal, very vocal, about financial responsibility, about teaching black people to build wealth, to take care of their families, to invest. He literally launched a financial literacy campaign called Bank Account that went nationwide. He went on the Ellen DeGeneres show to talk about teaching teenagers how to manage money. He's donated, he's helped his community, he has done genuine good. But the man in London who shares his blood is apparently not included in that generosity. And that contrast between the philanthropist rapper and the absent son is something you can't just scroll past. Now, real quick, because this piece of the story connects everything together, let's talk about what happened on Super Bowl Sunday in 2019. Because that moment didn't just change 21 Savage's life, it changed the entire conversation about who he is. February 3rd, 2019, Super Bowl Sunday. 21. Savage is one of the hottest rappers in the world. He's about to perform in a city where the Super Bowl is being held. And then, ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, pulls up and arrests him on the spot. Why? Because 21 Savage, despite living in America for most of his life and building an entire career as an Atlanta rapper, had never gotten proper immigration status. He had overstayed a visa, and he was, on paper, a British citizen living illegally in the United States. The internet exploded. The memes came immediately. People were doing British 21 Savage impressions. Chris Brown and Demi Lovato were out here joking. And for a brief, surreal moment, the world learned that one of America's hardest street rappers was actually a bloke from East London. And here's the irony that ties back directly to his father's story. 21 Savage spent years hiding his British identity because it didn't fit the image. He was embarrassed by the accent. He buried the London kid. He built an Atlanta persona so thorough that not a single fan suspected a thing. And then the government blew the whole thing up in one Sunday afternoon. After he was released, 21 Savage eventually addressed the situation. He went on Good Morning America. He spoke to the New York Times. He talked about how he came from the poor side of London, how his grandmother's house was tiny and skinny, how America, even in the hood, felt bigger and freer than what he'd known in the UK, and for the first time there was something vulnerable about him, something honest. He eventually got his green card in 2023, announced famously by Drake on the track 8 a.m. in Charlotte. And when he finally got his papers straight, he went back to London for the first time in nearly 2 decades. He performed at the O2 Academy Brixton, a triumphant homecoming. But did he knock on his father's door while he was there? That's the question nobody seems to have gotten a straight answer to. Here's what we got to understand, fam. This situation between 21 Savage and his father isn't just celebrity gossip. It's a story that touches on something way more universal. Because there are millions of families, especially in Black and Caribbean communities, where parents separated, kids moved across countries, communication broke down, and everybody's left holding a version of events that doesn't match anyone else's. When 21 Savage was a 7-year-old kid getting on that plane to Atlanta, he didn't choose what happened to his family. He didn't choose the divorce. He didn't choose to leave his dad behind. That was adult decisions made above his head. And when he got to Atlanta and got teased and fought his way into the streets and lost his best friend and got shot and clawed his way to the top, he was surviving. He was doing what he had to do. But at some point, when you're a grown man with millions of dollars and a global platform, you have a choice about what story you continue to tell, a choice about what relationships you repair, a choice about whether you let the narrative stay more important than the actual human being on the other end of it. Kevin Emmons is not asking for a mansion. He's not asking to be put on the Forbes list. By all accounts, he's asking for something much simpler: acknowledgement, some truth, maybe a relationship with his son before it's too late. And here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. When the RTM podcast dropped that interview, Kevin reportedly cried. A grown man, a father, breaking down on camera because he doesn't understand how it came to this, how his son became one of the most famous people in the world, and he found out about it the same way everyone else did, through the internet, not through a phone call, not through a visit, through watching his kid perform on TV and seeing his name dragged through the mud in interviews. That's heavy, y'all. Real talk. That's heavy. And before anyone comes to the comments saying, well, Kevin should have been there more, listen, maybe there are things Kevin did wrong. Maybe the separation was messy. Maybe his communication wasn't perfect. Maybe he should have gotten on a plane and shown up regardless of any agreement. Parents aren't perfect, but there is a difference between an imperfect father and a crackhead who abandoned his family. And 21 Savage gave us the latter when the truth appears to be far more complicated than that. Now here's the last piece of this puzzle that makes the whole thing even more layered. In 2024, 21 Savage dropped his album American Dream, and the concept of that album is literally about his journey from London to Atlanta, his immigrant story, his mother's sacrifices. The American Dream is seen through the eyes of a kid who came from nothing. The album features audio clips of his mother talking about why she moved them to America. It's emotional, it's personal, it's one of the most vulnerable artistic statements he's ever made. Critics loved it, fans connected with it, and you know what? It's a beautiful piece of art. But here's the irony. The American Dream album celebrates his mother's sacrifice and his journey to America. And that's great. His mother deserves every bit of that recognition. She raised him, she was there, she made those sacrifices. But the American Dream started the night his parents separated and his dad stayed behind in London. The American Dream was built on a foundation that includes a man who is still in England, still working for Westminster City Council, while his son just sold out arenas talking about chasing dreams. You can love the album and still feel the weight of what's missing from it. At the end of the day, 21 Savage's situation isn't just about a rapper who lied in interviews. It's about identity. It's about what happens to the people left behind when someone escapes their circumstances. It's about the stories we tell ourselves to survive, and the real people those stories affect. 21 Savage went from a British kid getting bullied on an Atlanta school bus to a Grammy-winning multimillionaire who helped shape an entire generation of trap music. That story is incredible. That story is real. That story deserves to be told. But so does Kevin Emmons's, a man who raised his son for 7 years before a family breakdown took that son to another continent. A man who says he was not a drug addict, not a deadbeat, not a monster. Just a father who got left behind in the version of events his son needed to believe to survive. A man who is still in the hood in London watching his son's face on billboards, listening to songs where his character gets assassinated for street credibility. The real question, fam, and this is what I want y'all to think about when you go to the comments, is it too late to fix this? 21 Savage is a grown man. Kevin Emmons is still alive. They are both still here. And unlike his best friend Johnny, who died in that drive-by, unlike his brother who was killed in a shooting, his father is still breathing, still reachable, still on this earth. Sometimes the most gangster thing you can do isn't surviving a shooting or going gold in the first week. Sometimes the most gangster thing you can do is pick up the phone and call your father before it's too late. What are your thoughts on this whole situation? Do you think 21 Savage owes his dad an apology and a relationship? Or do you think Kevin Emmons needs to stay out of his son's business? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this is one of those conversations that doesn't have an easy answer. And if you want more stories like this one, click on the video on screen right now. We got more heat coming, and you already know we keep it 100 around here. Peace.